The Chinese automaker BYD has made a number of announcements in the last few days. Today, we'll watch video of Stella, BYD CEO of Americas. She says they don't see Tesla as a competitor, but rather a partner, and she discusses BYD's strategy going after all segmentations. But she also says BYD does not have plans to enter the US market, contrary to what many have been fearing. Is this real or just maybe a timing issue with the US elections in 2024? In the last few days, they've introduced a plan for a new $11,000 car BYD Seagull. They've announced more price cuts for its Tang and Han models in China, and now they've revealed the new $233,000 supercar. To help me figure all this out, I've got Brian White joining us. He has his own YouTube channel called FutureAza. Welcome, Brian.
Hey, Herbert. It's a very big topic and a lot to cover, so I'm excited for this one.
Yeah, they're just one after another, announcements after another. And what's interesting is they're going after both the high-end market now, the low end. We're going to listen directly to Stella here, find out more what she says. So the news here is Stella is the boss, the CEO of Americas. And really, hopefully this is all true, but currently they say that they have no interest in expanding into Tesla's home market, which is the US. They're going to focus first on Brazil and Mexico. This is Stella here. We'll watch video of her. And they do plan to build a manufacturing plant in Mexico. She says make that misconstrued as an intention to export into Tesla's domestic market. They also have plans to build a new plant in Brazil. So her team is busy evaluating site candidates in a 124-mile radius around Mexico City. Let's watch her and listen in a little bit more.
Outside of China.
Yeah, but I need to correct your comment here. So BYD is not only offer affordable price, but we offer most advanced innovative technology there.
So you're competing on innovation, not necessarily price point anymore. That's the evolution of BYD.
Exactly. So we almost everybody in our consumer recognize BYD is more like a technology company instead of like a cheap car manufacturer. So we are a technology company. Plus the car design you see is very stylish and then very modern.
As you look abroad, I know BYD's been expanding its manufacturing footprint too. You've announced a factory in Hungary, one in Thailand.
Yeah, the Thailand one will start operation by end of June.
How long until you have a factory in Mexico?
We have manufacturing. We already officially start manufacturing, building the facility in Brazil. So we now have a team to invest in where the location to set up a Mexico manufacturer. So maybe by second half of this year, we can officially announce our plan to invest in Mexico.
So you'll make the announcement in the second half of this year?
In second half. But our target is we build a facility in the south or central region. Our target is to build this facility only mainly support Mexican market. It's not to build that Mexico, is not to build that manufacturer to support US. We're not planning to come to US.
No plans to come to the US?
No.
Why not?
It's too complicated. It's an interesting market, but it is very complicated if you're talking about EV. I think the US market is a little bit slowed down on electrification and a lot of confusing, also very complicated. So we think, no, let's hold. We don't have plan to come to US.
The politics are complicated.
Everything is complicated. Politics complicated, charging infrastructure complicated, and then it's confused for consumer, and then they don't know which to choose. So then I think.
What do you mean when you say it's confusing for the consumer?
Here in US is you have too many confusing noise, speech from different politics. Then this can bring a lot of confusion to consumer and also to auto manufacturer. They're not eager to invest.
You don't think they're eager to invest?
No, because I read the news, always see, this company hold their investment on EV, that company hold their investment on the a battery manufacturing. A lot of topic, we don't know what's happening. But in China, the message is strong. If you are not investing for electric car, you are out. You will die. You have no future.
So let me challenge you.
Interesting. A lot of things she said there, right? So do you believe what she says, that they're not intending to come into America? My read of what she said is just politics, right? There's a political season right now that when she says that other car makers are pulling back on EVs, it's confusing to the U.S. market whether or not they really want to go into electric vehicles or not. It sounds to me like it's almost like an opportunity for them to come in as opposed to the opposite. But I think it's really mostly political. She's afraid, she's want to slow down because it's a political election year. What's your thoughts?
Well, I'm hearing the same things you are. I would agree that so the first thing I wanted to say there is that it is an election year, and there is a lot of talk, a lot of fear that BYD would swoop in with a $10,000, $15,000 car and destroy legacy auto. And that's not a crazy belief. It's a little off. The $15,000 cars are unlikely to come to the US. They're not generally exported. They're not generally of the quality you would expect for a Western vehicle, but they would still be undercutting on price and on features for sure. And they've got a lot of inefficiencies that make them less desirable today, but those will be worked out in a year or three, almost certainly. So when she says there's no intent to enter the US market, what I hear in a literal sense is there's no intent to build a factory in the US. If they're making cars in Mexico, they are eligible for export to the North American market. They just may want to wait as long as possible to do that to avoid the political fallout. And they can dominate the rest of the world, pass on America for now, and still be the biggest car company in the world if that's their objective.
Yeah. So they're making huge moves, as we said here, that I was surprised to hear all the factories that they have, right? We already announced before, we did a show on their plans to do a factory in Hungary. Now they're talking about a factory in Mexico, one in Brazil, and then there's one in Thailand as well. So they're moving fast and furious. The only thing is that my understanding is their factories are not automated as much as Tesla's are. They're really still very much, lots of employees and humans doing all the work. Any thoughts on the factories that BYD's have?
If you look at the head count, you have to realize BYD is also a very big battery manufacturer. They make a lot of things that aren't just the car. If you look at someone like Tesla, and then you were to pull back all the battery employees who make batteries from third-party companies, their head count would be much higher. BYD also makes buses and other things. If you were to add those in, your head count would go up. I think they have inefficiencies, but they are not as, I think they've been a bit overstated. When the factory in Brazil, when she mentioned that, we know they already bought, or we had read that they bought an old Ford assembly plant, and we're going to retrofit that to build cars there. We know the government in Nuevo Leon is of the belief that they have already selected their city, but that doesn't appear to be, from what we just saw, that doesn't appear to be confirmed by any stretch, and that they might want to go quite a bit farther south. So that part I am less certain on. And what she's saying is, we don't want to be the cheapest guy in town. We want to have the best value. We want to have the best overall vehicle, which is, again, what we're talking about with some of the low-cost options. There is no $15,000 Chinese EV in Europe. And it's because, again, they have higher safety standards than in China. Customers have higher expectations of reliability and quality. And once a vehicle is being made by robots, you lose your ability to undercut on labor. Their labor is cheaper because they're able to hire good engineers for less than you could in a lot of markets, Europe and the US specifically, but also Japan and Korea. So they are able to save a little bit on the back end, but in terms of actually mass producing it, the huge savings that you would expect from it being made in China or even just made by the Chinese is disintegrates a bit. And they have some inefficiencies there they'll need to overcome.
Okay. In the next segment here, we're going to show just two different vehicles that BYD recently announced. One is the $11,500 electric vehicle, the BYD Seagull. Apparently it's a decent car based on Autoline's review. We're going to watch that. And then we'll also see this supercar So let's start with the supercar. They just announced this a couple of days ago, $233,000. Let me play this, and then you can react to it. Tell me what you're thinking.
Largest maker of electric vehicles by sales unveiled its new U9 model. The company says the car will be able to reach a top speed of 192 miles per hour and can reach speeds of over 60 miles per hour in just 2.36 seconds. For comparison, Ferrari's SF90 Stradale reaches the same speed in 2.5 seconds. And much like its supercar counterpart, the U9 will carry a hefty price tag. Prices start at 1.68 million Chinese yuan, which is just over $233,000. This is a change for BYD as the company hopes to capture more of the high-end market. The company is known for more budget-friendly vehicles, with some models costing as little as $10,000. With more than 340,000 vehicles sold in the fourth quarter of 2023, BYD overtook Tesla as the world's largest maker of electric vehicles. And while most of its production and sales remain in China, the company said last year that it plans to open its first factory in Europe. That'll do it for your daily brief.
Okay, what's your thinking, Brian?
Okay, so on that car, it is a fantastic car. I think it's beautiful. I'm sure some people will disagree, but it has that supercar sex appeal that is hard to deny. You can say it's not for you, but it is beautiful. At that price, it is going to be loaded with tech. Like they said, they were saying earlier, this is going to be a high-tech offering. But BYD is struggling with their engineering efficiency. So, for example, there was a review between the BYD Seagull and the Model 3 refresh. And while the specs were comparable and the price was comparable, the Seagull was 800 pounds heavier. That car is like 5,400 pounds. It's heavy. Compared to a Plaid, it's a good 500 pounds heavier. Compared to even a Lucid, the top spec Lucid is still 100 pounds lighter, and it's a much bigger car with a very big battery. So there are a lot of inefficiencies there. And I don't like to compare BYD to Lucid because they're not even in the same ballpark. BYD's actually making the tea. Peter Rawlinson's happy to just lick the bag. So there's a lot of things going on there. And when it comes to these factories that BYD is building, they may build a battery factory that serves U.S. Manufacturers without actually selling cars into the U.S. So that's another thing they could do.
Okay, supercar, 233,000. So yesterday, Elon Musk announced the Roadster, right? You're going to do a show on this, I think, right? So this is like a 0 to 60 in less than 1 second. He said that it's going to be sold next year, but the design is locked now. It's more of, this may not even be considered a car. So there's a collaboration between SpaceX. I mean, this is going to blow people away, right? This Tesla Roadster, so these kind of what they call halo products or hero products that companies have to show that, we're the best out there. And so now we got BYD trying to reposition themselves. Do you think they'll be successful to be able to go from this, low cost commodity to be seen as a technology company, like she's saying? Like, I think that's part of the reason why they can't really go into the US quite yet, maybe.
It could be about perception. There are a lot of people who just still think China exclusively makes junk, failing to recognize that they make some of the most, advanced products like iPhones and whatnot. Their drones, their cameras are all exceptional, many best in class, many industry leading. So there's a big disconnect between the perception and the reality, I think. And that will fade over time, especially as anyone goes on vacation and gets to experience one themselves in another market, they'll start to understand what's going on there. But I'm not worried about any of that. Now, the specs on the supercar, 0 to 60 in 2.3 seconds, you'll notice they're comparing its amazing speed to gasoline cars rather than other electric cars. Both the Tesla and the Lucid are much quicker. The Koenigsegg is, not the Koenigsegg, but the Rimac is quicker still. So it is cheaper than some of those, but more expensive than others. So I don't know if it's going to be as big of a deal as they want it to be. But they don't have to sell many for it to be a valuable, viable product for them.
Okay, let's take a look at their bread and butter. They've just released, and I don't know when they made it, a couple weeks now. BYD Seagull. They announced it $11,500. I'm going to play video here and tell me what you know about the BYD Seagull.
Okay, so the 11.5, I thought we were going to listen. No, the 11.5 is for the hybrid. It's not the full electric version. The full electric is more like 15,000. And this makes sense. 15,000 doesn't seem crazy, but this is, again, not an export model. I don't know what the crash worthiness is of this. I don't know how serious the range is. I haven't looked at the range on this. It's probably fine for city purposes. I don't know if you'd want to road trip in something like this, but you get into that virtue cycle where now that the car is so much smaller, the battery can be smaller, the brakes can be lighter and cheaper, the wheels, the tires, all of it gets smaller and lighter and cheaper. And you end up in a virtue cycle that makes it just keep working. And even if the range is short, these are certainly going to be using LFP batteries, the Blade technology LFP batteries that BYD designed themselves. So you can charge to 100 every day and get all your actual range without having to be concerned about battery life. So I think there's a lot of, it's a compelling product. I think if they were to export this, they could make a reasonably safe version of it in the $25,000 to $30,000 range. And there are a lot of people who would absolutely buy this today, I believe.
Nice. Yeah, I think they're planning to export that to Europe is I think the current plan right now. So they've got the supercar. They've got this $11,500 car that they did. They're building all these factories, and now they just announced yet another price cut war in China. So this is just last night. BYD is gonna cut the MSRPs of the Tang and Han models. This is what they look like. Again, they look decent cars here. So let's take a look at how much they've actually charged. I'm sorry, just skipping around here really quickly. So here it is. They're going to reduce the Han down to by about $2,700, $80, and then the Tang by $4,000. So it looks like that the prices will now be around $24,000 and $24,000 for both of these. It's another price war. They're just going for the kill. I've heard. I've been interviewing a number of experts in China, people who actually know exactly what's happening in the Chinese EV market. There's another one that's coming out this weekend, and they call it a bloodbath because there's so many electric vehicle companies in China. Because the government, I think you're the one that taught me this, right? They didn't only just come in with incentives for EVs, but they came in with penalties for gas cars, significant amounts. And that's why they're almost like 30 plus 40% of all new cars sold is electric vehicles, and it's skyrocketing fast. It's a bloodbath. Many electric vehicle companies are failing and dying. This is like going in for the kill. They're basically coming in, hey, as we improve our processes, as we have volume and scale, we can lower the price and kill the other. This is primarily going to hurt the other Chinese EV companies. I don't expect it to, affect Tesla. But what's your thinking?
I agree on all points. If it affects Tesla, it's only really competing with the base Model 3. That's a very popular car in China, so it could pull some sales, but Tesla may have pricing leverage to move a little bit. But the Model 3 is a much nicer car than the other two. And then when it comes to exports, they're going to be very popular. I am also more concerned with every Chinese manufacturer below the top 10 to 20. Those are where they don't have the economies of scale. They don't have the margin to cut their prices $4,000. That would put them upside down for sure. So they're going to struggle quite a bit with that. And BYD has a lot of cars in a lot of segments. They make a lot of different models, but they're just now really getting into SUVs and bigger things. So it is, and actually I could double check on that, but they do have crossover SUVs, but in terms of full-size SUVs, not a whole lot. They've got a couple new ones introduced. The BA05 and the U8 should be out soon if they're not already, but they're in every segment. And when we were talking earlier about the weight issue, that's something that will go away over time. They are too heavy for what they are. They are 500 to 800 pounds too heavy, depending on the model. and that will be fixed. That is something they are certainly aware of and certainly have plans to address. And every time they can shed a few pounds, they're going to make more money or be able to reduce the price or both.
Yeah. Okay. And just put everything in context, right? We don't see BYD as its competitor to Tesla. The electric vehicle revolution is massive. It's growing really fast. There's lots of other car companies that are failing. BYD will succeed. Tesla will succeed. Maybe a number of other Chinese companies will succeed. And it's hard to say now whether some of these other pure play EVs like Lucid or Rivian will succeed. It's hard to know at this point. But, it's really not looking good for the legacy automakers, both European and American. So the market for electric vehicles is wide open. And it's good news that we have a competitor like BYD. Again, I won't call them a competitor. I'm like, they're competitors to the ICE cars is the way we look at it.
I see it that way exactly. We're not eating each other's lunch yet. There's still a whole lot of lunch left at the buffet, and we're going to, and if you look at Tesla's sales growth in each market, you'll see a corresponding drop in internal combustion cars because the entire car market is finite. And in the early days of EV sales, you can eat as much as you want into it before the other guys start to notice. And then once they do, they realize, oh no, we're 10 years behind. This could be a problem.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Brian. Check him out on his channel at FutureAza. New branding, but same incredible content. He does deep dives, and he's just so brilliant. I saw on this channel, on this show today. Thank you so much, Brian. Appreciate you. Bye, everybody. I've created a website that is the most comprehensive resource for the Tesla investor. Please check it out. Simply go to my website at herbertong.com.